Hello, welcome to Searching for Service. I'm Joe Kirk.
And I'm Chad Larson. We want to thank our sponsors. We are sponsored by Rotary District 5950 and 5960, and Joe's going to give us our mission of the show.
Yeah, our mission of our show is to help Rotarians and non-Rotarians connect to service projects, and the way that we do that is have amazing guests on that highlight service projects, what Rotary is about, and just really great stories about service. Yeah. And why we believe that Rotary is the best vehicle for helping service.
Yeah, helping serve.
And today we do have a special guest. His name is Wade Nomura. He is a past district governor. And what district were you governor for, Wade?
That would be District 5240 in Central California.
California.
Very cool.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Is that where you're joining us from today?
That's correct. The city of Carpinteria, California.
I've not heard of that one.
That's a tough one. You don't want to say that one when you're drunk. You're like, I'm a driver.
It's by Santa Barbara, by the way.
By Santa Barbara. Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, Wade, I mean, let's just get right into it. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you were born, where you come from, and then you do have some really great stories on being a BMX champion. So we have to get there.
I know Joe's excited to ask you about that.
There you go. Sounds good. Well, I'll make this short and sweet because I don't want to waste a lot of your time. Born and raised in Santa Barbara, a third-generation Japanese-American. My grandparents migrated here in the 1900s. So spent just about all my time here in the greater Santa Barbara area. Did a lot of service work, involved with quite a few things, including on city council, where I just recently finished my term as mayor of the city of Carpinteria. So a little bit of tap in there. And by the way, the reason I served as on city council was because I was coaxed into it because the community felt that I would bring value to it, being a Rotarian, out of all things. So
opens all doors.
Done quite a few things. Work with the foundation. I'm heavily involved with global grants, especially in the area of water, sanitation, and hygiene.
Cool.
There you go.
Yeah, no, that's a great intro. How long have you been a Rotarian?
About 20 years now, 21 years, so total time. I joined starting a new club, Carpinteria Morning Rotary Club. I actually chartered in, and I was one of the charter members. I think there's only 3 of us left now, so. But it's been a great organization, and I've enjoyed it quite a bit.
So then how did you get introduced to Rotary? It sounds like that you were part as a charter member, but how did you get roped into joining the club or starting the club?
You must have been there to see that happen. My wife was the one with the rope. She dragged me in kicking and screaming.
And you never left.
Never left. Soon as it took me about 3 years to see the value of it, and they sent me out on a water project actually, and that was my life-changing time and experience, and my quote Rotary moment that I'm sure a lot of your other guests have talked about.
Yeah, it's almost like we teed you up for that question.
Yeah, that's right.
You did well.
So that was your aha moment with Rotary. Tell us a little bit of why that resonated for you
And where
yeah.
it was.
Okay. This one here is a pretty good story, actually. I was 3 years into Rotary, figuring out, what I'm going to do. This organization I thought was going to benefit my business, which never happened. So looking for opportunities, I was asked one day by the president if I would be willing to lead a team to Mexico to do a water project, which I raised my hand and said, gladly would. I'd love to do that. And they did not realize at that time that I had never been on an airplane anywhere in the world outside of the United States. So I did this figuring I'd get a free ride by Rotary. So that's why I jumped on board, went to the site in Mexico with 2 other people from my club. And as I got there, they said, okay, time to get to work. I go, well, wait a minute. What do I have to do for work? They go, well, you're the expert. You got to find the local Rotary Club, talk to the local government, find out where the challenges are for water and the need for a water project. Once we have that set in place, you're going to be in charge of negotiating land rights agreements, water rights agreements, maintenance agreements, and construction agreements. And how much time do I have to do this? Well, you've got 5 days. So fortunately, I was able to pull this one off. I went back a year later. We took a look at and inaugurated that water system. A gentleman, he was called the sheriff of the community, came to me, shook my hand, And he goes, "Thank you for bringing us water. You know, for us, water is life. Thank you for bringing us life." That was my aha moment. Go, wow. I came on a free chip. I probably paid that back 1,000 times now, but the rewards have all been equal. I've enjoyed every one of them.
Yeah, it never gets old hearing how people got really like locked into Rotary, and it's typically through some form of a service project or hosting exchange students. Like those two things really seem to be the real components that pull people in, kind of the lifers is what I like to call it. Like you get sucked right in.
Yeah, you could put me on that list.
We're future lifers. It's we're already there. We're hosting a TV or we're hosting a radio show.
That's right. Exactly.
Well, I always find it really fascinating how Rotary really fosters an environment for everybody, really. And can you talk a little bit about that in how have you always felt welcomed? Have you always felt like that Rotary has been a place for you and your beliefs, traits, things like that you really care about?
Originally, when I first started, no, I didn't see any of the value in it. And again, I was joined because I was forced to join. I was looking for angles, things like that would, I would say, benefit being a Rotarian. Couldn't find those things. It wasn't until I realized that, wait a minute, it's all about service, but service can only be done with an expertise or an interest that the individual has. I think that was the biggest difference that I found. Once I found that niche, it was easy to continue on that track. Currently, I'm doing as many as 6 to 8 different international trips a year for the Rotary Foundation, looking at projects, evaluating, and assisting with making them better.
That's why you got such a great tan.
There you go.
I think we got to take that 30 seconds that you talked about how you got entrenched in it, though.
There you go.
That 30 seconds about how you, after 3 years, how you pivoted and how much it benefited is. I think I can make a PSA out of that one.
There you go.
That was really well said.
One of the things about your background that really jumped off the page when I read about you was you're a BMX champion. And how did you get into BMX? And how did this all transpire? Because for those of you listening, you got to look up Wade and you got to check out his background with being a BMX champion.
Now, that in itself is a really interesting question and pretty random, by the way. I was a motorcycle racer. Started working, by the way, motorcycle racer is a hobby. My profession is a landscaper. And one of the projects that I did was actually a low-income housing project in the Santa Barbara area. And as I was working there, one day I had my motorcycle in the back, and there were about 4 kids that came out, 5 kids actually came out, ages 10 to 14 years old. They go, "Wow, you race motorcycles?" I go, "Yes, I do." And they go, "Well, we'd love to do that someday." I go, "There's no way you guys could do it. It costs too much money." But I tell you what, I took them out and gave them a few rides on the track, brought them back, and we're hooked. We want to do this. I go, "You can't do it. It costs too much money. How about BMX?" And they all said, "We'd love to do BMX." And so I actually went out, believe it or not, opened up a bike shop only so I can get these bikes wholesale for the kids in this project area. We built them a bike. They had to share it. They paid for it themselves by collecting aluminum cans and working for me. Took them to a local track. They loved it. Now, they were terrible racers because they'd never been on a bike, but they loved the sport. So we continued on. One day there was a Father's Day race. It was Father's Day, so they said, "You got to jump on. You're a father." I jumped on the bike and ended up winning the race. In local race, and one of the guys that was in that field was a national racer. He goes, "You got to do this." He goes, "You're pretty quick." I said, "Well, I've never been on a bike, but we'll give it a shot." He said, "Well, the Grand Nationals are coming up in the fall in Las Vegas. You may want to consider racing that." So I built a bike for that one. 6 months later, I was on the track in Las Vegas and ended up winning the Grand National Championship in my age group, which was 27 and over. It was a brand new class. So I figured, well, if I could do it at a Grand National level, let's continue doing it. At that point, I decided to build and design my own bike called the Nomura bike. Raced for another 5 years, ended up winning 5 national titles. Turned pro at the young age of 30 and got beat up, got spit out, and ended up eventually having to retire because of injuries.
Wow.
So the accidental champion.
Yeah, I love it.
Exactly.
That's a great story. Wow. And then how you got into it. So was that prior to being a Rotarian, or were you a Rotarian by then?
That was prior to being.
So you were already serving the community well before.
I've given back quite a bit to youth. I've run a junior golf program for now it's close to 30 years also. So bring that in to help groom our future champions in the golf world.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and I noticed, too, that you were inducted into the Japanese American Hall of Fame. And that was that for the creation of the bike?
For the creation and racing the bike.
Got it. Really cool.
For accomplishments, and also because the bike itself literally became an icon, which I never expected or anticipated. But I knew that if I was going to win races, I wanted to have the best bike out there. And the only way I could guarantee that is if I built it and designed it myself.
That's awesome. What a great story.
Yeah.
Just as we got about a minute left here in this first segment, let's go ahead and tease, really the core function of why you're on the show. And that's to really talk about your TV show that you do for Rotary, and it's Rotary Serving Our Community, correct?
That is correct. Yeah. You can see it on wearerotary.tv if anybody wants to take a look at it. It's a show that we started only because we wanted to highlight a lot of things, and we felt that Rotary was taking kind of a second fiddle, especially on media. You can't find it anywhere, as you guys know, because you got the radio station going there. It's hard to get it out otherwise.
I completely agree, and it's going to be fun to dive deep into this in the next segment because I think we face the same challenges.
Yeah,
so
that's for sure.
Exactly.
Make sure to stay tuned. This is Joe Kirk,
and I'm Chad Larson. We'll be back.
Rotary is a place for all community-minded people who want to serve their areas with the support of an international organization. Join Rotary to find service. Join Rotary to find inclusion. Join Rotary to find leadership. Join Rotary to find fun. Join Rotary to find friendship. Join Rotary to find a better version of the world. Find a Rotary Club near you at Rotary.org and click on Club Finder. There is a club out there for everyone. Find your fit with Rotary. Rotary.org.
For decades, eradicating polio worldwide has been Rotary's cornerstone cause. We are incredibly close to ridding the globe of this virus, but we need everyone's help to get us to the goal. World Polio Day is October 24th. Please consider making a new donation to Polio Plus or increasing your already generous giving. Go to endpolio.org to be a part of this historical eradication of polio. You will help get vaccinations to the most remote parts of our world and help fulfill a promise we made to end polio now. 2 drops and it stops.
Riverbend Nature Center is a free, nonprofit natural habitat in Faribault, Minnesota, with 743 acres, the Straight River, and 10 miles of trails. Despite no public funding, it offers educational programs to almost 10,000 youth and families annually. Riverbend seeks your feedback on its new strategic plan at rbnc.org/strategic-planning by March 30th. Thank you for your time.
Welcome back to Searching for Service. I'm Joe Kirk, and with me,
I'm Chad Larson. If you'd like to find our podcast, you can find us on any podcast platform. You got to search Searching for Service. And what do we like?
5-star reviews.
Yes, we do. Like, share, but you can find us on any place you get your podcast.
And you got to Searching for Service.
Yeah, that's a tongue twister every time. I still haven't found a better way to say it.
I know. And if you're just starting to listen to us, we have Wade Nomura on here. He's the past district governor in California. I can't remember the district number. I'm sorry, Wade.
It started with a 5. I know.
Started with a 5, yep.
5240.
5240. And we were just actually talking a little bit about Wade's background, how he got into Rotary, how he got into BMX biking, and now we're going to talk about how he got into a television show. And it's so fun because we're both, trying to broaden the horizons of Rotary through different forms of media. And so talk to us a little bit about how it all came up. And again, the TV show is Rotary Serving Our Community.
That's right. We started about 7-8 years ago. And the idea was I was actually approached by somebody that wanted to have a TV show. He goes, all the great things Rotary does, why isn't there a TV show? So, well, I can't answer you. I know Rotary International doesn't have any plans of doing one. He goes, well, I think it'd be great if we had one. Start it local, we'll build it up, then spread it out using maybe a YouTube link or something like that. So I go, that's a great idea. Well, who are you going to have host it and, produce it? Go, well, wait, it looks like it might be you. I go, might be me. Well, we want you to at least host it. And I think eventually you're going to be producing it also. So I said, well, if that's the only way we're going to do a TV show, so be it. So I jumped into the TV show, started by highlighting some of the local events, local projects, things like that, where we would actually go out on scene and start shooting some of the interviews with people that have done great things. Later on, it became easier for us to do most of that work in a studio. So I have a nonprofit studio where they actually let us come in there and use their studio to shoot these shows with. So currently, I think we have about 150 shows in the can. So
wow,
I'm pretty successful with that.
So we have a lot to catch up on.
Yeah, just over 30 here, so we got a ways.
Forget Netflix. We're gonna binge. We're gonna binge. So I'm gonna parallel this a little bit with like some of the things that we encountered as well. Is so getting the show started. You talk about it being very hyper local and trying to highlight the things that are going on in your community. What was the start on how did it grow? Because
everything always evolves.
Everything always does.
At 130 episodes.
You get connected to somebody that gets connected to somebody, and then next thing you know, you got Wade Nomura on your show, who's in California, right? Like so.
Well, actually, it's an interesting one because I did start it locally, and the one reason I did it locally because the sponsors were local based. So I go, well, for me to keep it local would mean that I'm benefiting these sponsors. So that's why I started that way. One of them approached me and go, well, all the work that you do internationally, why haven't you included that? And I go, you mean I have that choice? So once I heard that, we opened it up. So I started going out and including a lot of the trips that I was taking for the foundation on project evaluations, where we touched in and I covered a lot of those projects from start to finish, where they were, how they located, interviews with some of the local people, things like that. Next thing you know, the project grew, the program grew to where we were probably doing 3/4 plus on these international project trips and interesting people that we've run into and seen. We got away from the local.
Do you find that the international stuff influences the local stuff a lot? I mean, that's kind of been the correlation that we've seen on this show, and it's the connection. Whether it's going on an international service project, whether it's the student exchange, the Rotary International, the different types of the different types of conferences and things like that, they really seem to have a lot of connective tissue that does come back to the local clubs. So
that is absolutely correct. If you look at, say, the life of a local Rotarian, somebody that's a club member, what they see in Rotary is what they're experiencing, and that is community-based work. They don't get to see much beyond that because they don't have the time, energy, or even the knowledge of what's happening beyond that. So when we start doing these projects that got greater, we went district-wide, then we went, state, national, internationally. It's always fascinating to hear so many people comment, wow, we had no idea Rotary was involved with that one. That's great. That's outstanding. We would have never known that because we are working in the community. Never see that. Yeah. So I thought that was kind of a huge benefit on why we now broadcast outward, try and make sure that we bring everything into a local community.
How long is the show? Is it a half hour?
It's a half-hour show.
Half hour segments. You got to cut a lot down. Do you film when you're international, or do you put you're talking use a studio, but do you use film and images from when you're on the trips or other people have been?
Most of the time, what I've done in the past, that's probably going to change. I do a lot of photography. I'm a photography professional also. So I'll take these pictures and bring those pictures back and create a narrative based on the photos that I bring back. Yeah. So we use that one as like a PowerPoint presentation.
Sure. Very cool.
Have you found that there's a format that works best for your show?
Now, that's an interesting question. I've used pretty much the same format. Interview process, 30 minutes, one segment, 30 minutes would be one show. So we talk about one specific theme or idea. I was approached and have a new TV show that we just started last year called Carpentry Living, and I was asked to produce and host that one also. This was more in the format of a magazine show. So they're 10-minute, 15-minute segments where we actually go out there and we shoot those things live in different areas and then bring that in. So I'm thinking about using more of that format where we can go ahead and bring in a lot of things, because once in a while, 30 minutes on a topic gets a little old for the viewer. Whereas if we keep that interest in 15-minute spurts, 10-minute spurts, we can cover a lot of area and keep that interest factor. Yeah,
I remember when we first started this show and the 4 12-minute sections and going, how are we ever going to talk about anything? And then it's because it's quick, right? Like actually in the very beginning it was, how are we going to fill 12 minutes? And then very quickly it was, oh my gosh, it goes by so fast. And you don't get to necessarily get into everything that you want.
Yeah.
So how do you really boil down the interview to capture the essence of what you're trying to get to in that episode?
Right. Well, as you know, what you do is you find out what brought this person, this guest on board in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And you highlight that and you try and bring that out from beginning to end, how he got involved, and then you talk about the benefits of it. And at the very end, how do you get involved as a listener or a viewer?
Yeah.
So those are the same tricks I use there. And I think that's a good way to keep the people engaged, and it gives a lot of opportunity for those that are interested.
Have you had a favorite guest or subject matter?
I knew you guys were going to ask me that question. I would say one of the interesting ones, and I would like to share this one only because it's good timing that you guys asked me this. One of my interviews I did was in Atlanta at the International Convention. And in Atlanta, I had the opportunity of interviewing then director Jennifer Jones. And I asked her at this interview, I go, when do you think we are going to see a woman as a president of Rotary International? And her answer, very unique. She goes, it would be a travesty if we had a woman president of Rotary International because she was a woman. It would be ideal to have somebody that was qualified, most deserving, and the one that should be leading this organization because they've earned it, because they are there for that specific reason. Well, 2 years later, she was selected. So there you have it.
Wow.
It came from Jennifer.
That's very cool.
Well, really quick, just a quick commentary on that. It just actually shows you how great of a leader she is to have that foresight before that she even knew at that point or becoming the president and just going, this whoever is president needs to be the person based on their merit, not on any other capacity. And
okay.
I think that's super forward thinking and, exactly the type of leadership that Rotary, has benefited greatly from. So,
yeah, I think you can see it every day. We were talking about the Tri-District and even the programming through that, which I know she's not directly involved with, but it comes down and you can see it.
Yeah. Yeah, it trickles everywhere.
That's important. We only got about 2 minutes left, but you talked about your favorite show. What's you had your aha moment in service, but what during the show had maybe the most impact on you as a person?
I would say the biggest impact that it had on me, the show itself, was knowing that I could shoot these shows and bring to the audience some of the challenges, some of the results, some of the benefits that these huge projects have done globally. For example, in Guatemala, I was able to bring back a show where we actually interviewed a lot of the people that were beneficiaries, the Mayan people. And in doing that, how often do you get a chance to actually see firsthand how your foundation money is working, how those projects are being organized, and the faces of those beneficiaries that literally had their lives changed? I think that was the biggest thrill to me to make that happen.
Almost never. I mean, it's really difficult to make that connection sometimes. So I'm sure that being able to show that and present that is extremely gratifying.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I want to get into this more after the break, but with our show, we're trying to also influence Rotarians and non-Rotarians. Is that the focus, or is it trying to focus just on Rotarians? Or we only got about 30 seconds. We're going to dive more into it. But where do you see the goal for your show?
We focused it on the Rotarian audience. However, the big benefit is we also stream this thing to public, so public access gets to see this. Ideally, we want to highlight what Rotary does to the public, get them involved, engaged, and know what we are all about.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Makes total sense. I mean, what's great is, just before we wrap up, is what's good for Rotary tends to be what's good for the public at large anyway, or community at large. So just as a reminder, you're listening to Searching for Service. I'm Joe Kirk.
And I'm Chad Larson. We'll be back.
Rotary is a place for all community-minded people who want to serve their areas with the support of an international organization. Join Rotary to find service. Join Rotary to find inclusion. Join Rotary to find leadership. Join Rotary to find fun. Join Rotary to find friendship. Join Rotary to find a better version of the world. Find a Rotary Club near you at Rotary.org and click on Club Finder. There is a club out there for everyone. Find your fit with Rotary. Rotary.org.
For decades, eradicating polio worldwide has been Rotary's cornerstone cause. We are incredibly close to ridding the globe of this virus, but we need everyone's help to get us to the goal. World Polio Day is October 24th. Please consider making a new donation to Polio Plus or increasing your already generous giving. Go to endpolio.org to be a part of this historical eradication of polio. You will help get vaccinations to the most remote parts of our world and help fulfill a promise we made to end polio now. 2 drops and it stops.
Riverbend Nature Center is a free, nonprofit natural habitat in Faribault, Minnesota, with 743 acres, the Straight River, and 10 miles of trails. Despite no public funding, it offers educational programs to almost 10,000 youth and families annually. Riverbend seeks your feedback on its new strategic plan at rbnc.org/strategic-planning by March 30th. Thank you for your time.
Hello, welcome back to Searching for Service. I'm Joe Kirk.
And I'm Chad Larson.
And today we have Wade Nomura, past governor for District,
5240.
Nailed it. You wrote it down. See, this is why we're a good team. But we've been talking about Rotary serving our community. It's a television show that Wade has really championed for Rotary.
Created, produced.
Yeah, it sounds like all of it. All of it.
One thing I mentioned to Joe is, how have you grown it? It starts obviously at the club level and local, but, you talked about how you grew the content and how you branched out, but how have other Rotary groups, or how have you grown the exposure of the show? Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And one of the ways we do it, as you're doing, you reach out to different areas of the country, different areas of the world. You tell them you're shooting this TV show, then you send them the sample of that one. Yeah. Give them the link to it to where they can watch all of them. That expands your network quite a bit. Whereas previously it was just whatever showed up on public access. Those are the ones that we get to see. Yeah. So I think that was the biggest difference. By the way, if you got time, there is another TV show that I did that I thought was really fascinating after thinking about it during the break. And that was show that I did on polio. I'm actually a polio survivor. Wow. And one of the ways I got involved with that is when I found out that I really did it. I had the opportunity to go to India in 2010 to the city of Moradabad. And in that area there, I got to see behind the scenes because I was, quote, a governor, because I was a polio survivor, and because I was taken under the wing of the National Director of Health of India. In that time, in those 5 days in the city of Moradabad, we were able to immunize, and I say we, 3,300 volunteers plus the 5 from our team. We immunized 916,000 children under the age of 6 in 5 days.
Wow, that's incredible.
Isn't that amazing?
It's hard to wrap your mind around how many people that really is. I mean,
exactly.
3X Minneapolis.
Yeah. Wow. You guys must have been very efficient.
They were. When I say they, we were there more.
The royal we.
Support. Yeah. And the media was chasing me everywhere. Yeah, so it worked out well.
So we talked a little bit about the show format, some of your favorite moments, but what have you seen as the impact of the show? Have you been approached by people like, oh my gosh, so great you're doing this show. I love that you're having these type of guests on. What's been the impact?
I would say the biggest impact, people that have interest in specific topics will find that show. So having, about almost 150 of these done, they can pick and choose what they want. The biggest advantage, though, is that the people realize at the end that this is an opportunity for them to highlight their program, their project, their events. And so that's what we look at. We actually are doing these shows so that the other people that haven't yet used our tool, our vehicle, will have that opportunity to do so.
Very cool.
You pretty much hit the nail on the head of what Rotary is. It's always that connective tissue between like groups. Like we're always kind of this conduit, and
right.
We bring people to a service event. We highlight. It's a very, very selfless organization, and I think it makes it really fun for a TV show and a radio show, but also very difficult because if you don't catch your audience the right way, if you don't show the value of what Rotary is, it's tough for them to access all of those other things. So that's been one of the challenges of the show on our end, is to go, okay, we're kind of presenting all of these things, but what do we stand for? And what we've really boiled it down to in this show is, man, we got to tell great stories.
Yeah.
We got to tell great stories.
Yeah,
because
how does it connect? It's got to connect more.
And to become really great storytellers. And I imagine through the TV show, you have an entirely new ability to tell stories. So what is your favorite thing about telling stories?
Probably for me, it's motivating others to lead a life of service. And it sounds corny, but that is actually the truth.
Yeah.
All the work that I've done, if I could share that experience with other people, give them that opportunity, that's what Rotary's all about. And that's what I try and do with the TV show. Being on this show here, same thing. If you could motivate, inspire people to go a little bit beyond their comfort zone, find something that they really want to do and they're passionate about, that's what's going to get Rotary engaged for them. And it's going to be individual, and it has to be individual. Not everybody does it for the same reason. But if you give them an opportunity to be a life changer, it's going to be a life changer experience for them too.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I don't think that's corny. I think it's very much
it's a mission statement.
Yeah. Well, as you talked about your past too, through everything, it all lines up. What as you're rebooting and getting more content and going forward with the shows, are you changing anything? Are you kind of staying the course you're at, or where's your goals and as you get back going with it and ramping up?
Well, that's a good question. Ideally, I started the show. I've been doing it for this long now. What I would love to see happen is this idea sprout up with other people doing the same thing, like you're doing with the podcast.
Yeah.
Because we can't cover everything, and not everybody's going to find us. But if there are a lot of us out there, they'll find something. And if that's focusing on Rotary and the mission that we do, that would be the ideal situation. Yeah. People could pick and choose.
So if somebody's listening to this and is like, man, that sounds like a great idea to do this show. So how would they start to model the show? Where do they start? Where do they start?
If I were to recommend, I'd say start the same way we did. Start with the public access channels because those are free. Yeah. It doesn't cost you much to present and produce a show. And you also have a local audience where you can highlight what Rotary's doing in that community. You could have a few other fillers. Oftentimes, we could also share that material also. For example, one of our future TV shows is going to be having you guys on.
All right. Love it.
Yeah, we can make that happen.
We can absolutely make that happen.
There you go.
Yeah, I think the sharing, and I think it's something, Joe and I talk about off airs. We got to continue to learn how to grow that sharing. Obviously the guest, is a really great point because you get people from, we have local, but we have national and some international. But, the more you do it, the more you grow that network, like anything. And when we're kind of looking at that, say, like, how do we continue to find it and grow that audience and hopefully inspire? Well,
speaking of inspiration, I mean, I feel like with every guest, it's more inspiring for us, and it's like, how do we get this to our audience and continue to push this into our audience? And because it is so inspiring when you hear and you hear, like, what are we, like 31 episodes, I think it is, in, and we've had 31 different reasons why people have joined Rotary. We've had 31 different reasons and stories of, their aha moment, like all of those things, but they're all equally as impactful.
Yeah.
And it's just, you just keep coming back to going, man, Rotary just is unbelievably underserved and out there.
Yeah, you see the numbers, at the club meetings or the impact, but, the stories are what really kind of hit you. It's not when we talk to some other people on international, maybe funding and, how much of an impact it's had here, and here, the numbers are astronomical, but then you hear the story of the individual that they actually connected with, and that leaves you, speechless all the time.
Yeah.
Like, wow, it's pretty cool.
What, in our next segment, we'll talk about the future of the show, and we've kind of teased on it a little bit, but what are you most proud of with your show so far? I mean, it sounds like that it's been a labor of love for you. So what are you most proud of?
I would say the ability to showcase things that most Rotarians will never get to see.
Yeah.
The projects I've been on, as I talked about, the another one, the Rotary Rose Parade float, having that, actually showing from beginning to end how that works, how that's built up. Meeting individual people like Jennifer Jones. I've had the opportunity to interview a lot of the RI presidents of the past. I've actually served as representatives for the last 11 or 12 of them. So it's been an outstanding experience. The first time I actually met Jennifer Jones was when I was sent to her district by Ron Burton. He was then president of that one. So I met her, and she was actually assisting me as one of my aides when I went to hers, and that was before she was a director. So those are some of the weird and random opportunities we have. So when we talk about the show, people get to follow along with some things that they may never get to experience, but they get to see how Rotary is actually doing all these great things all over the world. So another one that was interesting, it was Tanaka. I was governor for the year just before Tanaka. Tanaka sent me to Texas. And I asked President Tanaka, why are you sending me to Texas for, to Dallas of all places? He goes, you'll find out. When I got there, the president of the Dallas club comes, do you know why you're here? I go, I have no idea. He goes, the Rotary Club of Dallas sponsored the Rotary Club of Tokyo, the first Rotary Club in Japan.
Wow.
Oh, my gosh. How cool is that?
Exactly. I go, who would have thought that? That was amazing. So these are some of the stories that I get to tell, that I get to see, but not a lot of people get to hear these.
Yeah.
But you get to tell them on your show, and I think that's a really, really powerful thing. So we've got about 40 seconds here. Any last things? How about this? What's the biggest lesson you've learned from your show?
The biggest lesson I've learned, I would probably say that the audience you reach is not always the audience you anticipate you reach. 100%. Sometimes it's bigger, sometimes it's used. There are random people that walk along the street sometimes go, hey, that was an awesome show, and I'm not even a Rotarian. Wow. No, that's life-changing.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That is great. And we'll talk about the future of the show here in the next segment. But I'm Joe Kirk.
I'm Chad Larson. We'll be back.
Rotary is a place for all community-minded people who want to serve their areas with the support of an international organization. Join Rotary to find service. Join Rotary to find inclusion. Join Rotary to find leadership. Join Rotary to find fun. Join Rotary to find friendship. Join Rotary to find a better version of the world. Find a Rotary Club near you at Rotary.org and click on Club Finder. There is a club out there for everyone. Find your fit with Rotary. Rotary.org.
For decades, eradicating polio worldwide has been Rotary's cornerstone cause. We are incredibly close to ridding the globe of this virus, but we need everyone's help to get us to the goal. World Polio Day is October 24th. Please consider making a new donation to Polio Plus or increasing your already generous giving. Go to endpolio.org to be a part of this historical eradication of polio. You will help get vaccinations to the most remote parts of our world and help fulfill a promise we made to end polio now. 2 drops and it stops.
Riverbend Nature Center is a free, nonprofit natural habitat in Faribault, Minnesota, with 743 acres, the Straight River, and 10 miles of trails. Despite no public funding, it offers educational programs to almost 10,000 youth and families annually. Riverbend seeks your feedback on its new strategic plan at rbnc.org/strategic-planning by March 30th. Thank you for your time.
Hey, welcome back to Searching for Service. I'm Joe Kirk.
And I'm Chad Larson.
And today we have Wade Nomura on. He's the district governor for
5240.
All right. And we've been talking about mostly the TV show that Wade has put on, Rotary Serving Our Community. And in this segment, we like to talk about the future and how we imagine it going forward. So I thought we've kind of talked about it a little bit, but let's just talk about it really quick on what is your hopes and dreams for the TV show in the future and what your involvement is.
Sounds good. I plan on continuing using this pretty much the same kind of format, but make this more of a magazine type of show where we can highlight different segments of Rotary life in maybe 10-minute, 15-minute segments. I think that would be a lot of interest for the people, the audience that are watching it. Ideally, in the long run, as more media pops up, for example, podcasts, that was something that wasn't even existing when I started my TV show. Things like that. If people start replicating this, I think that's going to be probably the biggest benefit we see, because that will change with time. It'll evolve. Right now, TV shows are they're kind of halfway there, halfway not. Some people like them. Some people are switching to other forms of media. So I think this is where other people jumping on board with different ideas will be able to take this to the next level.
I assume this are the shows on YouTube?
They are on YouTube, yes.
Great.
And again, we are Rotary.tv. You'll find it there.
Perfect.
And I'll put those, if you're listening to the show or watching the show, I'll have those links in the description so you can go check it out.
Well, great. Well, why don't we just move on from the show? There's a couple more things I want to highlight. Or you got something else?
I want to ask. Joe and I were talking. How do as us both having shows? How do we collaborate and understand that? How do we grow together? That we're trying to do this, very similar things, and both reach the public, but also show that there's other ways to highlight things about it. Any thoughts on that?
I do. A big one there. I'm thinking that ideally they have in Rotary what's called Rotary friendships and these fellowships. If we were to create one, at least become a network where we could all share the same experience, exposure, and the marketplace. That's something we need to do. Now, if we look at who's out there doing these, I know there's 2 of us. I don't know how many more there are out there.
Calling all podcasters and TV folks.
Yeah. Or media in general. Yeah.
But I think that would be ideal if we were to do that, and we could then share best practices and share experiences and programs.
Yeah, I think that's great.
We just laid down the gauntlet. We're going to create a Rotary Fellowship for the media.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, do we want to go into some other stories?
Yeah. So you just briefly talked about, that you had an episode on the Rose Parade, but I want to hear more about. Are you guys involved with it regularly, or was it one time? And something we see that's pretty cool from afar, but we just wanted to hear more about it.
Yeah, we've been doing it consistently for decades. We do it each and every year. The only time we missed was for during the COVID times, of course. The reason we do this one, again, it puts us out there in the media. It's being televised by multiple networks on the first of the year,
Yeah.
except for if the first of the year is a Sunday, then it moves to the second.
Yeah.
But it's being seen and viewed by close to 40 million people. That's our audience out there. And live, about 750,000 people actually line that parade route and actually see it going there. So
I didn't
we
realize
do
it was
this each and
that
every year
big.
for that. Yeah, it's huge, and it's the biggest time, the greatest exposure Rotary will have in that entire year.
Sure.
And that's big if you think about it. So what do we do as a committee? It takes us close to $200,000, just under that, maybe $160,000, $180,000 to put this float down. It's all funded by the committee, so we put most of that all work together ourselves, fundraising, the whole works. We outreach by having ambassadors throughout the country or the world. Any club or district that wants to participate with us and become an ambassador, they can buy in as a member that way, and they'll help us out also with that experience and exposure. We build it with a company called Phoenix Floats, and they actually are float builders. They put between 20 and 25 floats in the parade each and every year, so we work directly with them. They give us a pretty good discount, close to maybe, I would say, almost 50% off because we're a nonprofit and we've been with them for so long. This year, the theme is going to be, let's see. The theme this year is clean water, the music of life. And what we do is we merge the two themes together.
Flash
the
dance.
Parade theme is celebrating the world of music, the universal language, and of course, incoming one for President Gordon McAnally is create hope in the world. So he merged those two together to come up with the theme for the float.
Wow, very cool. Are you guys already in design or past design, or how long is that
we
process?
are in design. We are actually in the fundraising mode, trying to get teams together. We were looking at how and when we can put all this out there so people know about it around the world.
If our listeners are compelled to either donate to the Rose Bowl float, how would they reach you, or how would they?
Good question there. They can find our website. It's rotaryfloat.org.
Clever. I like that one. Keep it easy.
It's easy for us because we can remember it.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Like we talked about, that's something when you look at it, you're like, wow, it's just a parade.
It's just a parade, yeah.
I figured there was a lot more that went into it than meets the eye. And that's a cool invention.
We have a new rendering up there, too, right now. It's just been approved about 2-3 weeks ago. So
I'll have to check
viewers
it out.
can get a pretty good view of what's going on.
Yeah, very cool.
How does one get onto the float?
Oh, yeah, there's a good question. Again, since it's all about fundraising and we have to do this ourselves, if you want to walk on the float, it's $6,500 to be a walker, and we only allow 8 of those. If you're a rider, again, we only allow 8. It's $10,000 for a seat.
Very cool.
And
good way to fund it.
A lot of times what clubs, districts do, they'll fundraise for it, and then they'll have a random drawing, and that's how a lot of them show up that way.
That's a cool way to do it.
Yeah, I think Tom Gump was on it.
Yeah.
Was it last year?
Yeah, Tom definitely was.
Yeah.
Tom's been on the show, and he's a member of our
Lloyd
club.
Campbell was out helping us decorate it, too.
Oh,
my
Lloyd
God,
on there?
yeah.
Very cool. I wasn't a Rotarian yet, but I was in California. I should have, had I known it.
You should have come by, yeah.
Very cool.
Chad is a testament to this show. He was, Rotary approached the station about doing a show, and then, Kelly and we'd done a few shows, and then Chad was like, wow, this seems really cool. Why wouldn't I be part of Rotary? So it was kind of a really great immediate feedback mechanism for the show.
Well, it helped. For me, it really helped in that I had, years ago been to Rotary clubs, and I still had the misconception of an old white men club. And as I got to, listen to the show, interact, both with Kelly and Joe, and then also Lloyd and Tom, and then go to a couple of clubs, it was very clear that things are changing, and for what I would be interested in. So the show really helped educate me to see that there's change going on, and that was a huge impact too. It's been awesome to join and really starting to get entrenched. I get more out of. I learn a lot at the shows, which I think I'm pretty fortunate as a new Rotarian because I know more a little. I probably know more a little on the international side of things than I'm learning the local side, which I think is kind of the opposite path of most.
Well, and for sure, and I mean, I'm sure Wade that you could support this as well. I mean, for clubs, I mean, what a great resource for new members is to connect, to your show or to this show, just to get exposure to what else is out there. I mean, I've been a member for 4 years, and there's so much stuff. I'm like, I didn't even know we do this.
That's very true. Very true. And that's why we are such an important element. Unfortunately, we're a secret right now. We got to get that word out.
Yeah.
Well, we're doing our best, right?
Yeah, we'll keep keep pushing it. And obviously, the one thing we were talking off here is, we're radio, but we're a podcast, but it's also, we're not doing a produced show like you are with, that really kind of connects on visually. But having video be a part of it allows us to do Facebook Live. It just opens up more avenues, And I think even with your show being very visual, you could still put the audio up onto those platforms kind of do the reverse of what we are. And the main driver will still be the other platforms, but somebody that might get interested could still learn from, what you're talking about each week.
Those are great points. And again, that's what I'm looking at, the evolution of it, because what is here today is not going to be here tomorrow.
Yeah. It's always changing. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Well, I have to thank you, Wade, because, just even having you on and talking about how your process with the show. And I'm like, gosh, we could incorporate this, that, and the other thing into the radio show. And so it's already helping us get better. And I want to thank you for that. And hopefully, being on our show and kind of understanding how we interact with our guests informs your show, and we can learn from each other.
And we're going to create the fellowship.
That's right.
There you go.
I literally have that written down, underlined twice, because that is a no-brainer.
Before we go, what would be one thing you want to leave with the listeners? We got about a minute left, a little less, but any advice or just in general, doesn't need to be show related.
I would say this, and this is for anybody that's out there. Take a look at what you really have a passion for. Rotary gives those opportunities, brings a whole team together for you. So if you're trying to change somebody's life, if you're trying to improve something in your community or anywhere, Rotary is a place to start, literally, because you have people, like-minded people with a passion to serve. That's what I really want to push forward. Those opportunities are there for Rotarians.
Well, and thank you so much, Wade, for your service, everything that you're doing, and most of all, being on our show today.
Yeah, thank you, and we look forward to staying in touch.
We will definitely do that. Thank you, and thanks for having me. Sure appreciate it.
Thank you. And again, for those listening, we had Wade Nomura on, past district governor for District
5240.
Awesome.
I got it right.
As a reminder, I'm Joe Kirk.
I'm Chad Larson.
And as a reminder, it's time to stop searching
and start serving.